questioning scents with me, Matt. Okay, today we're going to look at a fairly recent acquisition to me. Well, to me, it's an interesting one. It's a scent that I've read quite a bit about, and it's a fragrance that I've genuinely been interested in. So it came up at a good price, and I bought it. Now we're going to be looking at this, which is Van Cleef and Arpels Bois d'Iris. The reason I've been looking at it is possibly my favourite scent of all time is Dior's Bois d'Argent. Now it's a scent that in some respects kind of opened the door to niche perfumery for me. My sister lives in France and she gave me some about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's finally running down. I'm very, very low on it, probably less than 10 mil, so a little bit concerned about that and knowing that I've got to replace it because it's such a wonderful scent to me. I understand from chatting to some other people that Bois d'Argent has gone through some kind of, it's been reformed basically. I can't confirm that because I've not actually smelt it yet. But the worrying feedback I sort of got is that it's a shadow of its former self, because it used to be on my skin a bit of a monster, and it's just such a wonderful scent. I absolutely adore it. So I was looking to get a replacement. Now I know Daniel Hosier does a Bois d'Iris as well, which I will probably get around to having a sniff off. Now Rich has tried that and said it smells really, really good, but it does lean a bit feminine, maybe a bit too feminine. Because I mean, Bois d'Argent is a massively unisex fragrance, but I think it smells great on me as well as it smells on some women as well. So I looked at, someone recommended the Van Cleef and Arpels Bois d'Iris as a decent alternative. So I bought a bottle. Now, what we'll do is we'll have a little chat about it. We can go through the notes and then just talk about my experiences with it. I wanted to resist doing a straight up comparison between Bois d'Argent and Bois d'Iris. And the simple reason, the Dior one is such a favourite of mine. I love it so much. I don't think it would be fair to do it because I could compare it to most scents, and I'd always prefer the Bois d'Argent purely because I've got so much history with it. So I didn't think it would be particularly fair to do a straight comparison between the two. Now I am going to have to reference it quite a bit through the review because they are very, very similar in places, and it's almost like, Bois d'Argent is the barometer's up here, and then everything else has to get up to that level, and let's see if this can or not. So first off, this comes from the Extraordinaires collection. So the presentation is lovely. I mean, the dangly bit does get on my nerves a bit because it just clicks around all the time. It came in a lovely box, if that means anything to anybody, so I'm not really fussed about that. I have heard that it's possibly been discontinued, so I'm not sure about that, so it's worth looking at. It's also available for some real bargain prices online. I got this via Amazon for a really, really cheap price, considering how expensive this was when it first came out and how expensive some of the Extraordinaire range are. I was well impressed with it. This was pretty cheap, to be honest with you. So it was a good deal. It was a good bargain. So I wasn't that, even if it came and I wasn't that over the moon with it, then it wasn't a bad investment by any means. So if you look at the notes are really, really simple. Basically, they are iris, wood notes, and ambergris. That's all that's declared. Now there is more in it than that. I can tell you that for a fact because there's a kind of a vanilla note in there as well. And this was released, I think, in 2009, whereas Bois d'Argent came out in 2004. So obviously Bois d'Argent came out, a good five years before this one did. And I can't help but they must have been influenced by each other because let's give it a little spray. Quite a big spray actually. It's a great bottle. On the opening, it smells so much like Bois d'Argent, it's unreal. So when this arrived and I sprayed it the first time, I got very, very excited because I thought, oh, blimey, they're so alike. But they're not. They are. I've never known two fragrances that are so alike but are actually polar opposites. And that's quite an achievement considering, they share so many notes. When this opens, you think you've just sprayed Bois d'Argent. You think, this is amazing. I'm really, really happy with that. But then it changes. Whereas Bois d'Argent is a warm, enveloping, sparkling sort of, I don't know, custard of a scent that's just magical. It does get compared to Johnson's baby powder on steroids, which is fair enough. I think it's quite good. It has got that kind of powdery vibe, and it does smell a little bit like Johnson's baby powder. So you know, that's a fair accusation. This doesn't. This starts off smelling so much like Bois d'Argent, it's unreal. But then what happens is it takes a different turn. The iris is still very prominent, it still smells very irisy, but now hidden in these uncomplicated wood notes, as they put down, is a real strong smell of pencil shavings. And that leads me to believe that there's quite a lot of either the woody notes, there's more to the woody notes than they're letting on, or it's full of ISOE super. I don't have a problem with ISOE super, but when you're looking at sort of a premium fragrance that does command a lot of money in the beginning, well, when it first came out, I think it's just a bit lazy just to fill it up with ISOE super, especially when I sort of kind of look at ISOE super as an ingredient that enhances performance. And this, no, the performance on this is not brilliant. When I say it's not brilliant, the longevity is pretty good. I get 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 hours out of this. But, and this is my issue with this fragrance, it opens quite loudly for about 10 minutes and then it becomes a skin scent for the entire length of its performance. It doesn't change. It sits so close to the skin. I'm really quite disappointed with the performance on this. Not the smell, it does smell nice. As I say, it starts off smelling very much like Bois d'Argent and then it kind of goes down. Whereas Bois d'Argent is a really warm scent. This, because of the ambergris, is really cold. So someone described it as a piece of driftwood that's been found on a beach. And I think the ambergris and the wood in this combine to give that kind of salty, woody affair, which isn't a bad smell by any means at all. It does smell really, really nice. The issue is, it doesn't project at all, and I'm really disappointed with that. I wore it out for a meal. I went out with my family for dinner the other week, and I thought I'll give it a go. You know, I applied it before we left, and it smelled wonderful. As soon as we got to the restaurant, and it was a good choice for a restaurant because obviously, you know, when you're going out for a meal with people you care about, you don't want to be broadcasting your fragrance across the restaurant. People are there to eat food and enjoy company and have nice drinks and stuff like that. They don't particularly want to be smelling you constantly. So for more intimate occasions and stuff like that, this is a good choice. But if you want to go out and project, then don't even look at that. The projection on this is really, really dull, really bad, to be honest. Performance is good in terms of how long the scent lasts, and it does smell nice. I mean, it's a nice smelling fragrance. I quite like the fact that it's a cold polar opposite to Bois d'Argent. So you have got two scents, as I say, that two fragrances that smell very, very similar but completely do different things, and that, you know, I find pretty interesting. I'm going to have to say it, I much prefer the Bois d'Argent that I've got. I've not smelt the newer version of it yet, and I will make a concerted effort to get my nose on it so I can see, especially if I can get it on skin and see how it performs, because that's what's scaring me. I don't particularly want to go and buy a replacement for my Bois d'Argent only to be really disappointed with it, because I'd rather just leave it alone. I have tried a perfume parlour version of Bois d'Argent, I think called Boisie d'Argent. Not very good. Smelled okay, performance really sucked. So wasn't happy with that. It just seems to, a bit like this, sit really close to the skin. So I suppose, you know, anyone can wear this. This is totally unisex. In fact, I would say this probably leans a little bit more masculine than Bois d'Argent does. This is much more of a, I think the woody notes and the ambergris combine to make this slightly more masculine than Bois d'Argent. Although I love Bois d'Argent, and you know, anyone can wear it. So I suppose in closing, if you get it for a good price, it's worth getting. But don't think you're getting something massively exciting, because it isn't. It's a functional smell. It's a functional fragrance which is, you know, led by the iris. The iris is there, but again, still, that's just more or less pure pencil shavings at the moment. And the pencil shavings do kind of go, they dissipate, and then it becomes more of a woodsy thing. There's definitely either tonka bean or vanilla in there that gives it a little bit more depth and probably helps, you know, carry the iris in a more sort of controlled manner. but it's just not exciting, and I think that's the problem with it, because it is in such sort of it's got such a lot to live up to. It's got big competition out there, and it's just not as good as Bois d'Argent, which is a real shame, because I was hoping, especially at the cost of it, that this would be a perfect seamless replacement, but it's not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get my hands on the Daniel Hosier Bois d'Iris. I'll probably just get a small sample of it, so I can then sort of give an opinion on it. Rich really likes it. His partner, she loves it, so he'll never get that back because it is a very feminine scent, according to Rich, and I'm sure it is. But I just want to try it myself now. So yeah, is it worth a go? If you get it for a good price, yeah, it is worth a go. But don't get too excited by it, because it's I don't know, it's pretty average, which is a shame really, because I think they probably had a great opportunity to make something quite wonderful there, and I don't know whether it's been a blending issue or they're just not, the concentrations have been wrong with it or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but the performance is not that brilliant. As I say, it does last a long time, it just doesn't project. So take it, not blind buy worthy. If you've got Bois d'Argent, you'll know what this smells like. So yeah, you can blind buy it, I suppose, but when I eventually get through this, it's a 75ml bottle, I think. So this is going to take forever to get through, because I don't reach for it very often at all. My wife doesn't particularly like it either, so it's not really going to get warm very much. So in terms of whether I will replace it or not, probably not. I don't think so. I don't think I'll ever finish this. So there you go. Yeah, Van Cleef & Arpels Bois d'Iris. It's okay. All right then. Thanks very much for your time as ever, and we'll be back soon with another review. Cheers. Bye.